The massive space station Unity floated silently in the void between star systems. Its gleaming metal halls buzzed with activity as delegates from 43 different species gathered for the most important peace talks in galactic history. Ships of every shape and size docked at the station's many ports, bringing representatives from across the known universe. Marcus Chen walked through the main corridor, his simple black diplomatic uniform marking him as part of the human delegation. At 28 years old, he was the youngest human diplomat ever assigned to such high-level negotiations. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his brown eyes took in every detail around him. The corridor was a marvel of engineering. Gravity, fields adjusted automatically as different species walked through, ensuring everyone could move comfortably. The air mixture changed subtly in different sections to accommodate various breathing requirements. Translation devices hummed quietly, converting thousands of languages into understandable speech. Marcus passed a group of tall, insect-like Krex delegates clicking rapidly to each other. Their translator rendered their conversation as discussion about trade routes and mineral rights. Nearby, a cluster of floating ethereal beings drifted past, their gaseous forms shimmering in the artificial light. But as Marcus approached the main negotiation chamber, he noticed something strange. The usual chatter and movement of the corridors became quieter. Delegates walked faster, their conversations dropping to whispers. Some even changed direction entirely, taking longer routes to avoid passing a particular section. Marcus knew why. Princess Zara of the Sanguin Empire was in the chamber. He entered the vast circular room where the peace talks were held. The chamber was designed to accommodate all species equally. Platforms of different heights allowed flying, swimming, and ground-based life forms to participate comfortably. The lighting could be adjusted for species with different visual needs. Temperature zones varied across the room. In the center sat 43 seats arranged in a perfect circle. Each seat was occupied except for the ones immediately surrounding one particular delegate. Princess Zara sat alone. Marcus had studied the files on every delegate before arriving at Unity. Princess Zara was the official representative of the Sanguin Empire, one of the most feared civilizations in the galaxy. The Sanguins controlled crucial hyperspace routes that connected the Outer Rim territories to the galactic core. No trade ship could reach the frontier worlds without passing through Sanguin space. The princess herself was striking in appearance. Her skin was pale blue, almost translucent, with dark veins visible beneath the surface. Her hair was pure white and fell to her shoulders in straight lines. Most unsettling to other species were her eyes, which glowed a deep crimson red. She wore flowing robes of deep purple that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. But it was not her appearance that made other delegates avoid her. It was what she represented. The Sanguins were known throughout the galaxy as energy vampires. They could drain the life force from other beings through physical contact or even close proximity. Entire civilizations had stories of Sanguin raids where ships would be found drifting empty, their crews aged to dust in moments. Marcus took his seat in the human section, 3 positions away from where Princess Zara sat in isolation. He could see the other human delegates, Ambassador Williams and Deputy Chen, watching him carefully. Before the talks began, Ambassador Williams had given explicit instructions to the entire human delegation. Under no circumstances is anyone to approach the Sanguin representative directly, Ambassador Williams had said during their briefing. We have reports from 17 different species about the dangers of close contact with their kind. Maintain at least 10 meters distance at all times. Similar warnings had been given by every other delegation. The Krex had shown holographic records of entire colonies found empty after Sanguin encounters. The ethereals, being energy beings themselves, were particularly terrified of creatures that could drain their essence directly. As the morning session began, Marcus watched the familiar pattern play out. Delegate after delegate would rise to speak about trade agreements, territorial disputes, and mutual defense pacts. They would address the chamber as a whole, carefully, avoiding any direct reference to the Sanguin Empire or its representative. When topics requiring Sanguin input arose, an awkward silence would fall over the chamber. Other delegates would glance nervously in Princess Zara's direction, then quickly look away. The princess herself never spoke. She sat perfectly still, her glowing red eyes fixed on some point in the distance. The lead mediator, a wise old cetacean named Deep Song, would eventually move on to other topics when it became clear no input was coming from the Sanguin delegation. Marcus found himself studying Princess Zara more closely than the others dared. Unlike his colleagues, he was not content to simply fear what he did not understand. His training in xenobiology and cultural studies had taught him to observe behavior patterns rather than rely on reputation alone. What he saw intrigued him. Princess Zara's hands, which rested on the table before her, had a slight tremor. It was barely visible, but Marcus had learned to notice such details during his diplomatic training. The tremor was not from fear or anger. It looked more like weakness or exhaustion. During the lunch break, Marcus lingered in the chamber while other delegates filed out to their respective dining areas. Most species had specific dietary requirements that were accommodated in different sections of the station. The humans ate in a section with Earth-normal atmosphere and gravity, but Princess Zara did not leave with the others. She remained in her seat staring down at her hands. Marcus watched from across the chamber as she lifted one pale hand to her throat and touched it gently. Her expression, which had been carefully neutral during the morning session, now showed what looked like pain. She closed her eyes and took several deep breaths. When she opened her eyes again, Marcus saw something that surprised him. For just a moment, her carefully maintained composure cracked. The expression on her face was not the cold arrogance he expected from a feared alien princess. It was loneliness. The afternoon session proceeded much like the morning. Important topics were discussed while carefully avoiding anything that would require Sanguin input. Princess Zara sat in her circle of empty seats, watching but not participating. Marcus noticed more details as the hours passed. The princess occasionally pressed her lips together, as if trying to keep herself from speaking. When she thought no one was looking, she would reach for the water container at her station, then stop herself before touching it. Most telling of all, her pale blue skin seemed to be growing paler as the day progressed. The dark veins beneath the surface became more prominent. The glow in her red eyes dimmed slightly. By the end of the day's session, Marcus was convinced that something was seriously wrong with Princess Zara. But his attempts to discuss his observations with Ambassador Williams were quickly dismissed. "Your concern is noted, Marcus," the ambassador said firmly. "But our orders are clear. No contact with the Sanguin representative. The safety of our delegation takes priority over curiosity." That evening, Marcus could not concentrate on his meal. The human dining area was comfortable and familiar, with food that reminded him of home. His colleagues discussed the day's negotiations, analyzing the positions taken by various delegates. But Marcus found his thoughts returning to the isolated figure of Princess Zara. He excused himself early and made his way to the observation deck. The deck offered a spectacular view of space through massive transparent panels. Stars stretched endlessly in all directions. The ships of the various delegations hung in space around Unity, like a collection of exotic sculptures. Marcus was not alone on the observation deck. Princess Zara stood at the far end, silhouetted against the starfield. She was so still she might have been a statue. Following his diplomatic training, Marcus maintained the required 10-meter distance. But from this closer position, he could see more details that confirmed his suspicions. Princess Zara's breathing was shallow and labored. She gripped the railing with both hands as if she needed the support to remain standing. Most concerning of all, he could now see that her lips had a slight blue tint, as if she were not getting enough oxygen. As Marcus watched, Princess Zara suddenly swayed slightly. She caught herself quickly, but not before Marcus saw how much effort the simple act of standing was costing her. He took a step forward, then stopped himself. His orders were clear, but his training as a diplomat included more than just following rules. It included recognizing when situations required flexible thinking. Marcus spent a sleepless night researching everything the human database contained about Sanguin biology and culture. Most of the information was secondhand, gathered from other species who had encountered Sanguins under hostile circumstances. But buried in the scientific data, he found some interesting theories. Dr. Sarah Kim, a xenobiologist who had studied energy-based life forms, had proposed that sanguines might be symbiotic rather than parasitic. Her research suggested that their energy exchange ability could be mutually beneficial under the right circumstances. The key word was exchange. Most reports focused on sanguines taking energy from other beings. But Dr. Kim's work suggested they also gave energy in return, creating a balanced biological relationship. Marcus also found historical records that painted a more complex picture of sanguine behavior. Yes, there were accounts of devastating raids and energy draining, but there were also older records of peaceful sanguine, communities that had lived in harmony with other species for centuries. The pattern that emerged suggested that hostile sanguine behavior might be driven by desperation rather than malice. If they truly needed energy exchange to survive, then isolation and fear would force them into taking what they needed without consent. The next morning's session followed the same frustrating pattern. Important galactic issues were discussed, while the representative of a major star empire sat in enforced silence. But Marcus now watched Princess Zara with educated eyes. Her condition was clearly deteriorating. She moved more slowly when she did move at all. Her skin had taken on an almost transparent quality. The glow in her eyes was noticeably dimmer. During the morning break, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He approached Ambassador Williams with a formal request. "I want permission to make direct contact with Princess Zara," he said quietly. Ambassador Williams looked at him as if he had suggested jumping out of an airlock. "Absolutely not. That's not just against orders, Marcus. It's potentially suicidal." "With respect, sir, I believe she's dying," Marcus replied. "And if she dies here during peace talks, it will be seen as either incompetence or assassination by the Sanguin Empire. Either way, it means war." The ambassador frowned. "What makes you think she's dying?" Marcus shared his observations from the past 2 days, along with the research he had conducted. He explained Dr. Kim's theories about sanguine biology and the historical evidence for peaceful coexistence. "Even if you're right about her condition," Ambassador Williams said slowly, "approaching her could be exactly what kills you." Those energy drain reports didn't come from nowhere. "The reports also show that the draining only happened during hostile encounters," Marcus pointed out. "There are no recorded cases of sanguines harming diplomatic envoys who approached peacefully." Ambassador Williams was quiet for a long moment. Around them, delegates from dozens of species moved through the corridors, all carefully avoiding the section where Princess Zara was likely resting. "If you're wrong," the ambassador said finally, "you die, and we have an interstellar incident that could start a war." "If I'm right and we do nothing," Marcus replied, "she dies and we definitely have a war." The afternoon session was the worst yet. Princess Zara had clearly reached a critical point. She sat rigidly upright, but Marcus could see the tremendous effort it was costing her. Her breathing was now visibly labored. Her hands shook constantly. Other delegates had begun to notice her condition as well. Worried murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several representatives looked toward the human delegation, as if expecting them to take action since they were seated closest to the princess. Marcus felt the weight of the moment. 43 species had gathered here to prevent a galactic war. The failure of these talks would mean conflict on a scale never before seen, and at the center of it all sat a dying princess that no one dared to help. The afternoon break arrived and delegates began filing out as usual. Princess Zara attempted to stand with the others but swayed dangerously. She gripped her chair for support, her knuckles white with strain. Marcus watched as she struggled to maintain her composure. Pride and determination were the only things keeping her upright, but pride would not save her life. As the chamber emptied, Princess Zara remained in her seat. She was no longer trying to hide her condition. Her head hung forward and her breathing came in short gasps. Marcus looked around the nearly empty chamber. A few maintenance staff moved quietly through the space, adjusting equipment and preparing for the evening session. None of them paid attention to the dying alien princess. This was the moment. Marcus could follow his orders, maintain safe distance, and watch Princess Zara die alone. Or he could trust his training, his research, and his instincts. He stood up and walked toward her. The few remaining delegates in the chamber noticed immediately. Conversation stopped. A Krex representative made a sharp clicking sound of alarm. An ethereal being pulsed bright yellow, which Marcus knew was their expression of extreme concern. But Marcus did not stop. He walked steadily across the chamber, closing the distance that fear and regulation had maintained for days. Princess Zara looked up as he approached. Her red eyes widened in surprise and something that might have been hope. Up close, Marcus could see just how dire her condition had become. Her pale blue skin was now almost white, and dark circles surrounded her eyes. The chamber had gone completely silent. Everyone present watched as the young human diplomat approached the most feared being in the galaxy. Marcus stopped directly beside Princess Zara's chair. She looked up at him with an expression of wonder, as if she could not believe someone was actually talking to her. Then Marcus leaned down and whispered something in her ear that made her eyes go wide with shock. The words Marcus whispered were simple but shocking. "You have not fed in weeks, have you? That is why you cannot speak." Princess Zara stared at him with wide eyes. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. She nodded slowly, confirming what Marcus had suspected. Around the chamber, the few remaining delegates watched in stunned silence. None of them could hear what Marcus had said, but they could see Princess Zara's reaction. For the first time since the talks began, the Sanguin princess was showing genuine emotion. Marcus pulled a chair closer and sat down beside her, ignoring the gasps of alarm from the other delegates. "I have been studying your people," he said quietly. "Not the fear stories, but the real science. Dr. Sarah Kim wrote about sanguine biology. She believed your people are not parasites but partners." Princess Zara's eyes filled with something that looked like tears, though the liquid was pale blue like her skin. She tried to speak again, but only managed a whisper so soft that Marcus had to lean closer to hear. "Dying," she breathed. "Cannot take without permission. Must prove we have changed." Marcus nodded with understanding. "You came here to show that sanguines can be peaceful. You have been starving yourself to prove your people are not monsters." The princess nodded again, more tears flowing down her pale cheeks. Her whole body was trembling now, not just her hands. Marcus looked around the chamber. The maintenance staff had stopped their work to stare. A few delegates had returned to see what was happening. All of them maintained careful distance, ready to run if the dangerous alien made any threatening moves. But Marcus saw no threat in the dying princess. He saw only a being who had sacrificed everything to change how the galaxy viewed her people. Dr. Kim wrote that energy exchange goes both ways, Marcus said gently. The Sanguin gives as much as they take. It helps both partners. Princess Zara's eyes widened with hope, but then she shook her head weakly. "Dangerous for you. Other humans will be angry." Marcus smiled. "Let me worry about that." He extended his hand toward her. Dr. Kim wrote that willing contact creates the strongest connection. "I am willing." Princess Zara stared at his outstretched hand as if it were the most precious thing in the universe. Around them, the chamber filled with more delegates as word spread that something historic was happening. "Human diplomat is approaching the Sanguin," came urgent whispers in dozens of languages. "He will be drained in seconds," someone said. "Should we call security?" asked another voice, but Marcus ignored them all. He kept his hand extended, waiting patiently for Princess Zara to make her choice. Ambassador Williams rushed into the chamber with several other human delegates. "Marcus!" he called out sharply. "Step away from her immediately." Marcus did not move. "She is dying, sir. If we let her die here, the Sanguin Empire will consider it an act of war. If she kills you, we will definitely have a war," Ambassador Williams replied. Princess Zara looked between Marcus and the other humans. She could see the fear and anger in their faces. She started to pull her hand away. "Wait," Marcus said softly. He looked directly into her glowing red eyes. "I trust you." Those 3 words seemed to break something inside Princess Zara. More tears flowed as she slowly, carefully, placed her pale hand in his. The effect was immediate, and unlike anything the watching delegates had expected. Instead of Marcus collapsing as his life was drained away, both he and Princess Zara began to glow with soft light. The glow started where their hands touched and spread through both their bodies. Marcus felt an incredible rush of energy and awareness. His mind became sharper than it had ever been. Colors appeared brighter. Sounds became clearer. He could sense the emotions of everyone in the chamber with startling clarity. At the same time, Princess Zara's pale skin began to regain its natural blue color. The dark circles under her eyes faded. Her breathing became deep and steady, The trembling in her hands stopped completely. The energy flow between them was perfectly balanced. Marcus gave freely and received just as much in return. It was not draining or harmful, but healing and strengthening for both of them. The chamber erupted in amazed murmurs. Delegates who had expected to witness a death were instead seeing something that looked almost magical. After several minutes, the glow faded, and Marcus and Princess Zara released their hands. Both looked refreshed and energized, though in different ways. Princess Zara sat up straight in her chair. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever, but now the light seemed warm rather than threatening. When she opened her mouth to speak, her voice rang out clear and strong across the chamber. "Thank you," she said, and her words carried to every corner of the room. "I can speak again." The chamber fell completely silent. In 5 days of peace talks, these were the first words anyone had heard from the Sanguin representative. Marcus smiled at her. "What is your real message for the galaxy?" Princess Zara stood up gracefully, her strength fully restored. She looked around the chamber at all the delegates who had gathered to watch this unprecedented moment. "My people have been misunderstood for too long," she began, her voice carrying easily through the space. "We are called vampires and monsters. We are feared across the galaxy. But the truth is much different." More delegates entered the chamber as word spread. Soon nearly every representative was present, though most still maintained careful distance. "The Sanguins are indeed energy beings," Princess Zara continued. "We do need to exchange life force with others to survive. But we are not parasites. We are partners." She gestured toward Marcus, who was still glowing slightly with residual energy from their connection. "As you have just seen, the exchange benefits both parties when done with consent and understanding." Deep Song, the cetacean mediator, swam closer in his mobile tank. "You claim this exchange is beneficial, but we have records of entire colonies found empty after Sanguin encounters." Princess Zara's expression became sad. "Those were acts of desperation, not choice. When my people are starving and cannot find willing partners, some have taken energy by force. This leaves the other party weakened or worse." She looked directly at the assembled delegates. "But that is not who we want to be. That is why I came here. That is why I have spent 5 days starving myself rather than take energy without permission." Ambassador Williams stepped forward cautiously. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Partnership," Princess Zara said simply. "The Sanguin Empire controls the major hyperspace routes to the frontier territories. These routes are valuable, but they are also dangerous. Pirates, cosmic storms, and hostile entities threaten ships that travel them." She began walking slowly around the chamber as she spoke, though delegates still moved away as she approached. "My people could provide protection for these routes," she continued. "Sanguin abilities include enhanced awareness, rapid healing, and energy manipulation. We could guide ships safely through dangerous space." Marcus, still feeling the enhanced mental clarity from their exchange, understood immediately. "In return for protection services, you would receive consensual energy exchange from willing crew members." "Exactly," Princess Zara said, smiling at him. "Ship crews would benefit from increased alertness, faster reflexes, and improved health. Sanguins would receive the energy we need to survive. Both sides gain from the arrangement." A Krex delegate clicked nervously. "How can we trust that Sanguins will not simply drain entire crews?" Princess Zara stopped walking and faced the insect-like being directly. "Because we have nothing to gain by killing our partners. A healthy, willing partner can provide energy regularly over many years. A drained corpse provides energy only once." The logic was undeniable, but fear was hard to overcome. Delegates murmured among themselves in dozens of languages. Deep Song's melodic voice filled the chamber. "These are serious claims, Princess Zara. Do you have evidence that such partnerships have worked before?" "Yes," Princess Zara replied. "Before the Great Expansion Wars 3 centuries ago, Sanguins lived peacefully alongside many species. The planet Harmony 7 had a mixed population for over 200 years. Marcus, with his enhanced awareness, could sense the emotional states of the delegates around him. Fear was still present, but it was beginning to mix with curiosity and even hope. "What happened to these peaceful communities?" asked an ethereal delegate, their gaseous form pulsing with nervous energy. Princess Zara's expression darkened. "War happened. When the galactic expansion began, resources became scarce. Fear and competition replaced cooperation. Sanguins were blamed for problems they did not cause. We were driven from our homes and forced to survive alone." She looked around the chamber with sad eyes. Some of my people became exactly what the galaxy believed we were. Desperate creatures taking what they needed by force. But many of us remembered the old ways and dreamed of returning to them. Marcus stood up, still feeling the incredible energy flowing through his system. The princess speaks the truth. I can sense it through our connection. Ambassador Williams frowned at Marcus. You were explicitly ordered not to make contact. And if I had followed those orders, she would be dead by now, Marcus replied firmly. Her death would have guaranteed war with the Sanguin Empire. By making contact, I have opened the possibility for real peace. Princess Zara nodded gratefully toward Marcus, then addressed the full assembly. I propose a trial period. Let the Sanguin Empire provide protection for one major trade route. We will work only with volunteers who understand and consent to energy exchange. If the arrangement proves beneficial to all parties, we can expand it. The chamber erupted in discussion. Delegates huddled in their species groups, debating rapidly in their native languages. The translation systems worked overtime to keep up with the flood of conversation. Marcus found himself at the center of attention from his fellow humans. Ambassador Williams pulled him aside for a quick private conference. How do you feel? The ambassador asked urgently. Any weakness, fatigue, or unusual symptoms? Marcus smiled. I feel better than I have in years. Stronger, more alert, more focused. It was exactly as Dr. Kim predicted. Deputy Chen studied Marcus carefully. Your pupils are dilated and you seem almost hyperactive. Are you sure you are not experiencing some kind of drug effect? It is not a drug effect, Princess Zara said, approaching their group. Several humans instinctively stepped back, but Marcus stood his ground. It is enhanced biological function. His human systems are operating at peak efficiency. She looked at Marcus with concern. The effect will fade gradually over the next few hours. There are no permanent changes or harmful side effects. Ambassador Williams studied both of them carefully. Assuming this energy exchange is truly beneficial, why has no one discovered this before? Because no one was willing to try, Princess Zara replied sadly. Fear prevented understanding. My people became isolated, and isolation bred more fear. Marcus nodded in agreement. Human history is full of similar patterns. Groups that seemed threatening often just needed understanding and cooperation. Over the next hour, the debate continued throughout the chamber. Some delegates remained firmly opposed to any cooperation with Sanguines. Others were intrigued by the possibilities Princess Zara had outlined. The breakthrough came when Captain Torres of the merchant vessel Star Wanderer contacted the station. His ship had been attacked by pirates while traveling through Sanguin space 3 months earlier. Captain Torres requested permission to address the assembly via communication link. Princess Zara speaks the truth, Captain Torres said when his image appeared on the chamber's main screen. My ship was badly damaged and my crew injured when we were attacked. A Sanguine patrol found us. The chamber listened intently as the captain continued his story. Instead of attacking us like the stories say, they offered help. 3 Sanguine warriors came aboard my ship. They asked permission before making any contact with my crew. Captain Torres smiled on the screen. The energy exchange healed my injured crew members and gave us the strength to repair our ship. In return, my people felt energized and alert for weeks afterward. It was the most beneficial trade I have ever made. This first-hand testimony from a non-human source carried enormous weight. Delegates who had been skeptical began reconsidering their positions. Princess Zara seized the moment. Captain Torres represents what we hope to achieve. Mutual benefit through willing cooperation. The Sanguin Empire wants to be part of the galactic community, not its enemy. Deep Song's melodic voice carried across the chamber. The testimony is compelling. But implementing such a program would require careful safeguards and oversight. Agreed, Princess Zara said immediately. We propose joint monitoring stations staffed by representatives from multiple species. Full transparency in all operations. Regular health checks for all participants. Marcus, his enhanced awareness picking up the subtle mood changes in the chamber, sensed that opinion was shifting. Fear was giving way to cautious optimism. Ambassador Williams stepped forward. The human delegation would be willing to participate in a limited trial program, subject to strict safety protocols. One by one, other delegations began expressing conditional support. The Krex wanted extensive medical monitoring. The Ethereals insisted on emergency procedures for ending exchanges. The Aquatic Collective demanded regular psychological evaluations. Princess Zara agreed to every condition. Her willingness to accept oversight and restrictions impressed even the most cautious delegates. As the day's session ended, something unprecedented happened. Instead of avoiding Princess Zara, several delegates approached her directly. They maintained respectful distance but engaged in actual conversation. Marcus watched with satisfaction as the barriers of fear began to crumble. The enhanced awareness from their energy exchange was fading, but the memory of that perfect balance remained vivid. "You have changed everything," Princess Zara said quietly to Marcus as the chamber emptied. Marcus smiled. "We changed everything. You had the courage to starve yourself for peace. I just had the sense to recognize what you were doing." Princess Zara's red eyes glowed warmly. "In my culture, we have a saying, 'Understanding shared is wisdom doubled.' You have doubled the wisdom in this chamber today." As they walked together toward the exit, Marcus reflected on the day's events. Human diplomacy had always been based on finding common ground, rather than focusing on differences. Today, that approach had prevented a galactic war and opened possibilities no one had imagined. The trial program would face many challenges. There would be setbacks and difficulties. But for the first time in centuries, Sanguins and other species were talking instead of fighting. Marcus had learned that sometimes the greatest diplomatic victory comes not from complex negotiations, but from the simple courage to extend a hand to someone who needs help. Behind them, the chamber fell silent, but the echo of Princess Zara's words lingered in the air. Tomorrow, the real work of building trust and cooperation would begin, and it had all started with a human who chose understanding over fear.